Hi, welcome to the Magical Alternative, a monthly show highlighting the magical, the unusual, the interesting, and the fascinating, and every once in a while, the oddly weird. My name is Faith McCann, and I am your host. My co-host is Miss Laurel Ladyhawk, and we have our wonderful band, November Sound. Tonight's guest is the amazing author, witch, and my good friend, Mr. Gavin Bone, and our opening credits were created by Gavin, and we want to give him our thanks. He did some amazing work. And let's get right into the news of the day. It's going to be good news of the day. Recently, a hoard of jewelry was discovered in a pond in a Polish lake, and it was dated back to Celtic times, over 1,000 years BCE, and that dates back to, it means the before the Common Era. The following was found: over 33 human bodies of various ages, 550 artifacts from arm torques, necklaces, other trinkets, and most excitingly, they discovered Waldo. Yes, did you know his name was Waldo Kowalski? Did you know that?
No.
Polish, a good name, hangs out poolside, but now with the paparazzi, he's probably going to have to do what Waldo does best and take a hike, and we'll be looking for Waldo again soon. In other news, this is Erica Hart. She's a pet detective, reunited with over 330 lost dogs with their owners. How this started is Erica's a 44-year-old woman in the UK who back in 2018 received a thermal imaging drone from her dad as a gift. Great gift, Dad. Well, after she got it, she was learning how to use it, and she learned that there was a missing dog in her neighborhood. So she contacted the owner, and together they decided that she was going to try to use her new drone to locate the missing Schnauzer. And she did. So Erica developed this rescue mission to locate missing dogs, and her particular mission to rescue these dogs has included rescuing over 330 dogs so far from Somerset, England to Scotland. She's also helped find missing people.
That's amazing.
Cats, cows, and emus.
All right, can't lose the emus.
And since 2018, Erica has gone through 30 drones in her mission to reunite loved ones with their missing family members. So, also in dog news, the U.S. Coast Guard inspectors located a stowaway who was trapped inside a shipping container for as many as 8 days without food and water.
Oh, no.
This is going to be a good ending, though. Only good news. At the International Port in Houston, Ryan McMahon, a petty officer, second class, was conducting a routine inspection of the more than 10,000 containers that fill the port at any time when he and his colleagues detected the sound of scratching coming from one of the containers. It was over 25 feet up in the stacks, and they had to use a crane to get it down. When they did, they opened it, and they found a couple of junk cars and a very happy dog.
Yeah, I'd be like, no, you're gonna open that container. I don't know what's in there. I'm not gonna open it. You open it.
I didn't even think of that. Well, they named her Connie, and a Coast Guard spokesperson said it would have taken another week for that particular cargo ship to reach its destination, and it probably would have been a different ending, but luckily they saved Connie, and even though Connie. The people that her rescuers would have liked to have kept her, but because they're in active duty in the Coast Guard, they weren't able to. But she was given to the Forever Changed Animal Rescue in South Houston, and they have treated her for malnutrition and for heartworms, and she'll soon be up for adoption.
Yay.
Look at that face. I mean,
Adorable.
she is so adorable.
Adorable.
Considering good news, here in the U.S. in economic news, over 353,000 non-farm jobs were added, smashing expectations, all while unemployment remains at a historically record low level of 3.7% for the third month in a row. Actually, the unemployment rate has been below 4% for 2 years running, the best record since the 1960s. The real GDP at the end of 2023, stick with me because this really does have something to do with the magical world, was just under $1 trillion higher than expected, according to the Blue Chip forecast at the end of 2022. Quote, the combination of strong job growth, rising nominal wages, and slower inflation has led to solid gains on aggregate compensation, said the Council on Economic Advisors. How was this possible? There are many theories, with some even suggesting magic, but not in the positive, beneficial way you would expect. The Economic World Forum just met this January 2024 in Davos, Switzerland. And as you can see behind me, Chiefess Putani Yawanawa of the Amazonian Yawanawa tribe in the Acre region of northwest Brazil was invited as a special spiritual guest to give a blessing to the guests on stage and a blessing to the earth.
Say that name 3 times fast.
Oh, I can.
I'm sure you
Putani
can.
Yawanawa. I love her name. Unfortunately, well, she performed a shamanic rite. Unfortunately, I'm sorry to say, ignorant people all over the world are losing their collective minds. There are scores of websites and online videos with salacious headlines screaming, and these are actual headlines. World Economic Forum has witch cast spell over entire world. Something dark is coming soon. Also, witch coughs on world leaders at Economic World Forum. Yeah. One, they say she coughed all over world leaders. No, she blew on people with their permission. And that's actually something that is found in many, many ancient cultures, blowing on things to give them life, to bless them, to give good fortune. We even blow into people to give them CPR, to give them life again. So it's no more dangerous than a religious leader putting their hand on you and saying, bless you, my child. So, and that's exactly what she did. She gave them a blessing. And sorry, but there were 0 world leaders at this particular forum. Now, the CEO of IKEA was present. The director of the International Monetary Fund, I hear she's lovely, she was present. And the president of World Bank was also there. And a couple billionaires were also there. But they're not really world leaders.
No.
My definition of a world leader is either a president, a king, or a queen of a country.
Right.
They say she's a witch. She is a shaman. No, not an insurrectionist shaman, apparently these days. We need to be specific. She is a true shaman. But she has a few other things going against her, apparently, because they're saying she's evil. She's a woman.
1.
She's brown.
2.
She speaks a foreign language.
3.
And her religion may be unfamiliar to you.
Yeah.
Somehow that makes her evil. But many websites, as I said, are jumping all over the place saying she cast a spell over the world.
Oh.
But I can tell you that it is no different than just saying a prayer. But nobody bothered from any of these websites to actually look at what she actually did say.
No.
Well, in her picture, as you can see, she has face paint on, and it looks unfamiliar to you. But what she did say in her native tongue was, we can join our hands, unite our hearts, unite our thoughts in the same direction for the healing of the planet and spiritual healing. While we unite in our thinking and our hearts, our Mother Earth will listen to us. Isn't that beautiful?
That's absolutely beautiful.
So excited to introduce you to my guest tonight, Mr. Gavin Bone. He is a witch, a registered nurse, and an author, and also the partner and husband of Miss Janet Farah, who was our guest last month. So stay tuned and let me introduce you to Gavin. And tonight my guest is Mr. Gavin Bone. Last month we had his other half, his partner and wife, Ms. Janet Farah. And tonight we're going to be interviewing Gavin Bone. And good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for inviting me to the show.
Thank you for being on The Magical Alternative. I'm really excited to talk with you. So, can you tell me some of your origin story of how you started in the magical world? I know.
That goes back.
For many of us.
I had a few odd experiences when I was a child
Mhm.
in the house I lived in. Both my sisters and myself, we had a ghost in the house, and we all saw the ghost. I mean, it wasn't just childhood fantasy. We'd all seen it. And there was a few odd things that happened to me in the house. So that's really where it starts. I remember one day, me and my mother were sitting in the living room one day, and suddenly out the corner of the room comes this voice which goes, "Hello!"
Oh.
We both, okay, it's her. And it's just like that. You got to accept it. One day in the kitchen, a parlor, my mother was an amazing baker, cakes, scones, muffins.
Oh,
And she used to
sounds
fill up
nice.
tins and tins when she was actually on her baking day, and she'd put them on top of the table, and one day they just flew sideways off. So that was the atmosphere I grew up in.
So the spirit wasn't a fan of baking, baked items.
So there was sort of this interest. Also, some of it has a lot to do with my mother. My mother used to go to see mediums and tarot readers and would come back and talk about it. And so in my early teens, we talk about everything. I remember when she bought a copy of von Daniken's Chariots of the Gods, and we talked about that.
Yes.
So I got an interest in literally everything paranormal and occult.
So it was accepted in your house.
Yeah. It was pretty much normalized. It wasn't like my mother was practicing anything in particular. It was just we could talk about it. And it was, what was it now? Yes, a friend of mine used to go to the Spiritualist church. So I went along to the Spiritualist church. And I was the child who, when he was little, the stray animals would follow home.
Yeah.
So I've always had a tendency to be empathic. So that attracted animals towards me.
Yes.
It used to drive my mother mad what walked through the door with me. So I ended up going to the Spiritualist temple, and they picked up on some stuff with me. I was already beginning to lean towards the occult. I mean, my first books weren't books on Wicca or witchcraft. There just weren't very many of those around back in the early 80s, late 70s. So you just studied whatever was around. So a lot of the stuff I read was Dion Fortune, Murray Hope, stuff on psychic protection. I joined a book club, and in the book club was a book called The ABC of Witchcraft by Doreen Valiente. So I got that book and I read through it, and I went, "Oh, I'm a witch." This woman's written everything about my beliefs, because I developed my own beliefs. I used to call myself, I jokingly say I was a Gavinist.
I love it.
A Gavinist sort of took things from everywhere. A Gavinist took the idea of reincarnation from Hinduism and Buddhism. A Gavinist took the idea of polarizing forces from Taoism. A Gavinist looked at gods and goddesses being manifestations of natural forces. And I also came up with this, what I thought was a unique idea at the time, that is an interconnecting web of everything. I came up with that myself. And didn't realize later on it was an Anglo-Saxon concept called weird.
Yeah.
So
we see that everywhere today. Everywhere.
Right. Pick up this book by Doreen Valiente, and pretty much all that's in there. Oh, I'm a witch. So there I was a witch. And back cover advertised some other books by other authors. And of course, one of those books was 8 Sabbaths for Witches by Janet and Stuart Farah. Also, The Witch's Way. And then the next month in the book club, up came for sale A Witch's Way. Of course, both those books together became A Witch's Bible later on. So I got The Witch's Way, and I discovered, I'm not just a witch, I'm a Wiccan. So from that point, I started to I'd already been practicing little things myself. little bits of magic, particularly with my group of friends when there were tensions between them. I'd do a knot spells. I'd get a piece of string and I'd knot a name, not knot names into them, naming each knot, and then I'd tie them together. And at that point, I was putting them around a statue of Buddha. So that's really I started on magic.
Nice.
So what happened with me is I started to accumulate books on witchcraft, most of them with Doreen Valiente.
Yes, I love her work.
Janet and Stewart.
Yes.
Back in the 80s, there were not many books out there.
No.
Not at all. So, you had this small collection, which was pretty much anything about modern witchcraft.
Mm.
So a friend came around one day, saw the books and said, I know a few more people who've got books like that. He introduced me to them, and the next Samhain, we were out in the middle of the woods, the next Halloween, scaring the hell out of each other.
Sounds like great fun.
Yeah, so it was a Samhain night, south coast of England, a place called Potwell Woods. It was a full moon that Samhain. It was blowing a gale through the trees, and we're trying to light incense and candles. Okay, so we'd never done anything like this before. And of course, people hearing strange sounds, because a lot of them were townies.
Mm.
I was used to the countryside by then, but a lot of them were townies, grew up in Portsmouth or Southampton. The people who were there,
They don't like the woods.
we were seeing strange things in the trees and scaring the hell out of each other.
Yeah.
So I walk away from that, and I feel it was okay, but I felt really uneasy.
Why is that?
As I discovered, I had come home with company, but this time it wasn't furry.
Oh.
And so there'd been this little occult shop called Fifth Dimension opened up in my hometown of Portsmouth. So I walked in there, and the woman behind the counter stared at me, and she had these half-rimmed glasses. She goes, "Young man, there's an elemental following you." I said, "Yeah, that's why I've come in. I've just not felt right." She said, "Oh, it's not really a problem, but I'll tell you what, I'll do a tarot reading for you." So I started to explain what I'd got, what I'd been doing. And I said, "Well, we were doing witchcraft." She went, "Nothing wrong with that." Now, this was interesting because she was a Christian mystic.
Okay.
It didn't bother her at all, the idea of witchcraft, as I found out why later. And so she did a tarot reading, she did a healing on me and cleared it. Now, you see, I'd already been going to the Spiritualist Temple learning to heal at this point. So, of course, I was slightly on the vulnerable side. So this thing just dropped off.
And
scuffled away.
Yeah. So what type of element? What you know now, after all those years, what type of elemental do you think? Because there's so many beneficial.
It's a lich, a ground feeder. It's the same thing that likes to attach and scare the shit out. Sorry.
That's okay. It's after 10.
It's the same sort of thing that attaches to children, scares the shit out of them when they play around with Ouija boards, because they pick up on the negative emotions, and they're actually positive. They feed. They're the things that, when a couple have an argument, come into the room and clear the negative energy naturally, and then they ground.
Okay.
And that's so. But if you play around occult-wise with negative energies, these things can attach permanently. This thing just fell off.
So if you're not familiar with it, now you would know how to handle it if you encountered one.
That sort of work has carried on with me actually ever since then, because I was already drawn to healing naturally as an empath. So doing this sort of clearing work on people for this stuff. And that's moved into actually basically helping people with curses here in Ireland, because that still goes on. So from that shop, I discovered that there was actually Irene, who ran the shop. She told me there was actually a group that gathered there, and they were a ceremonial high magic group. And they were a bit of an eclectic mix, really, because there was Irene, who was the medium. There was a ceremonial high magician. There was a shaman he was actually a Norse shaman, although he never used the term shaman, and he worked with runes. There was a Sufi. There's a couple of spiritualists, and I was one of the youngest, and I worked in that group. And it was one of the gentlemen there, David, who said, "Look, you've told me the story of your friends, because I was the only one going. Would you like to see if they'd be interested in joining and forming a group?"
Yeah.
So the first group I joined was a self-initiated Sax Wicca group set up by this man called David, who was my first teacher. But we couldn't stick with Sax Wicca. We just had to put everything we'd read at the time and pulled that in as well, not just Ray Buckland's work.
Yes, I was going to say that's
From his
Raymond
book-
Buckland.
From his
yeah.
book, The Tree.
Yes.
So that's how I started. But the problem was back then in the mid-80s, there were a lot of dodgy people around because there's no internet. There's no way of checking people out.
Oh, yeah.
So you always met the most loudmouth people first, claiming to be the great obsessmus of this or the great high magician, when they were nothing at all.
Or over here, we would meet a lot of hereditary going back centuries. The country didn't go back that far.
Everybody's granny who
Yeah.
read tea leaves was a hereditary witch.
Yes, or it went back, centuries and centuries and centuries.
So
Yeah.
from that sort of, I had myself and my wife, who I married at the time, my last wife before Janet, we're still very good friends. We were involved in this group, and we were told, "Oh, Sax Wicca's not a real tradition." So we ended up looking for more genuine witches and found kooks half the time. And every time we'd get, "You're not a real witch." That's strange because everything I'm doing is working.
Yes, isn't that
These
the
were the
case?
days when there wasn't you didn't define a difference between witch and Wicca back then. You'd find a difference between witch, Wicca, and pagan. So you had the saying, all witches are pagans, but not all pagans are witches.
True.
That's changed now. People change these goalposts over time, the different generations. So I will say, some bad experiences with people. I developed a very good radar at picking them up. And what happened with me really was, because of those experiences, I actually grew. I learned. So I don't regret getting involved with the wrong people. Most of them were egos and on power trips, because I learned so much from them. I learned how not to be a witch. That sort of witch. So
I see. How not to be that sort of
witch. So how to be more open and everything else, because all the time. And then when I first met Gardnerian Alexandrians, I also got the same thing. Oh, so who initiated you? Oh, I was in a self-initiatory Sax Wicca group. Oh, okay. So you're not actually really initiated. But something interesting had happened to me. I tried to initially be fashionably Celtic, because Celtic was the big thing in the 80s.
Yep.
Everybody wanted to be fashionably Celtic.
Back in the 80s, yes.
But I kept getting drawn back to Anglo-Saxon and runes.
Yeah.
And particularly one goddess, which was Freya.
Freya.
So I decided, I'm going to dedicate to this goddess as my goddess. And I dedicated to her. I did basically a self-initiation ritual. There was nothing self about it because she turned up. My view is, if a self-initiation is successful, it's not a self-initiation. So she turned up, and she spent the next year turning my life upside down.
Yes, there have to do. Yeah.
A lot of things changed in my life. I can say one thing about the initiatory process I went through, because my initiatory process wasn't one in ritual.
It wasn't.
It was in a ritual initiation.
Okay.
It was what happened afterwards, the things that happened to me. I went through a dark night of the soul. My life seemed to fall apart around me, and I came out of it. And I know the experience a born-again Christian goes through now. Because I made that connection. The only difference was I understood what was going on because of what I'd studied. So that's what happened to me. And that's also what eventually drew me to meeting Janet and Stuart as well.
Oh, that's amazing. That is really amazing. There is so much that we can talk about. I cannot wait for this conversation to continue. And right now, because I don't want to lose any of this in the show. So right now, are there any most recent books that you have finished or you and Janet have finished?
We where there are two books that've come out in recent years. One was The Inner Mysteries.
Yes.
This was very much based on the things that I learned when I was younger. Particularly being a healer, I focused a lot on energy. So as Janet Stewart and myself traveled around, we had to give workshops, and we needed something as a base to teach people, because we had people from all different backgrounds and traditions, not just witches and druids and shamans, all came to our workshops. So we used energy as a basis
Mm,
to understand ritual, to understand magical processes.
yeah.
So The Inner Mysteries covers that, and actually giving witchcraft a cosmology,
Mm,
because it doesn't have a cosmology
no.
apart from the four elements in the circle. So we created a cosmology which was pretty much universal for witchcraft as well. So that was the first book. But
The Inner
because of
Mysteries.
this, yeah, the second book followed on, because we applied those two techniques to drawing down the moon in
Ah.
Wicca, where the goddess comes down.
Yes.
What happened in the work we were doing was far from symbolic.
Mm.
We actually got full possessions from it. So we developed that as a technique, and that became a book called Lifting the Veil,
Yes.
which
Excellent.
is on trance prophecy and trance possession work.
It's a wonderful book. And I want to thank my guest, Gavin Bone. And we're
It's been a
going
pleasure being
to
here.
be able to show you the books behind me, that if you're interested, you can learn a lot more about this. And as I said, we are going to continue this conversation. So have a great rest of the show. And my other guests are coming up soon. Thank you very much. And Mr. Gavin Bone, thank you.
Thank you for
Okay.
having me here.
All right.
And we're back. And Miss Laurel, have you heard that they have Daryl Wood wands
No,
on sale?
I haven't. Where did they have?
Oh,
Look at them. Aren't they adorable?
well, sounds like there's somebody at the door.
Sounds like it must be time for Baba Yaga's.
Ah, mail. Okay, mail delivery. Did you get something in the mail?
I did. Actually, I did.
And what did you get?
Okay.
Wait a
First,
minute. We should probably tell people if you are interested in writing to the Baba Yagas, and we'll explain to you what that is in a minute, you can write to our Gmail account at magicalalt1818@gmail.com. That's magicalalt1818@gmail.com. And a Baba Yaga, what is a Baba Yaga? A Baba Yaga is from Eastern Europe, where my people are from, and it's an old grandmother. She could be really wonderful and loving and gentle, or she could be very fierce and very stern. And children around the holiday times were threatened that if not, they weren't good, the Baba Yaga would not be very kind to them. So kind of a forerunner to today's Santa Claus. And the Baba Yaga would fly around the world in a mortar and pestle. And she lived in a house that had long stilts and had chicken feet. So one of the fairy tales from Eastern Europe. So we're going to be the Baba Yagas. We might be kind, we might be stern. I'm looking at you for that.
okay.
What are some of the questions?
Okay, so the first question is, do you believe in the devil?
No.
I don't believe in the devil either.
No, we don't have a devil in our understanding of the world. Well, why don't you believe in a devil, Miss Laura?
Because in what we practice, there is no devil. There's no heaven, there's no hell, there's no...
Oh, really? You don't believe in heaven?
Well, I believe in the Summerland, and I believe
Summerland,
that
yeah.
I
Our
believe
Summerland is the heaven.
yeah, I believe there's another place out there that we all go to and maybe come back if we'd like, and
But no hell, no
but
devil.
no devil, no hell.
I tend to be a student of history. I've taught history for a very, very long time, and I mean, I can go back into ancient history and show you when they actually came up with the adversary, where they came up with the concept of the devil for social, political, economic, reasons, social and society control, things like that. So we work with the natural world, and there is no, devil in the natural world. There's really no evil in the natural world. I'm not saying evil doesn't exist. Just look at humans. We created the concept, but an actual devil, no.
No.
So what's your next question?
Next question. What do you eat?
Why do people always ask us that?
Really?
Why? We always, I've been asked that question more times than anything. What do you eat? I don't know if they're asking if we're vegan. If we eat children.
I eat strawberry shortcake. Yeah.
I think it's because a lot of people watch horror movies, and I want to address that. And I've talked to this to classes before. It just fascinates me how people can watch a movie like, I don't know, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, so many amazing movies out there, and know that they're fiction. They watch a horror movie, and it's like they take notes, like this must be true. No, they're not real. They are fiction. They're probably the most fictional movies out there are horror movies. They're not real. Not even a little bit. Not even those that have made a lot of money trying to let you believe that they're real by having museums attached to their house with dolls and that. They're not real. They're not real. So we eat
You're
regular
possessed and your
food.
head spins around.
Some of us are vegan, some of us are not. Some of us, eat well, some of us don't. I mean, we eat regular food. We're human.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Okay, let's see.
another one? Any more questions?
Yeah, a couple more. Let's see. We've got, can I do a love spell to bring my ex back?
No. Just the way it's worded that way. Yeah. If they're an ex, don't do that. You can do
Why?
a love spell.
Why would you want them back? If they don't want you, why would you want them back?
If they're an ex, chances are let it go. I mean, you can do a love spell, but we never focus on. I do love spells all the time. I've been married over 40 years. I do love spells all the time. Because
But
you can
even
always have more
so,
love in the world.
But if that person comes back to you, you may be missing out on the one person that's going to be the right person for you too. You know, I mean, that person obviously, if they're an ex, they're an ex for a reason.
And there's manipulation. We don't do that.
No.
We don't do that. So no. Let's look at it this way. Imagine, or even if it's not an ex, it's somebody that you don't have their permission. Now, if you want to do a love spell and lighting candles on a dinner table and having a nice dinner and sitting down with a significant other, somebody you're going on a date with, and it's both people are good with it, that's very that's wonderful. But if that other person is not good with it and you're trying to get them to go out with you, imagine there's some like creepy person at work. It's just just hypothetical. And you really have no interest in them, and you found out they were doing love spells with you as the target, and that's what we call it, a target. Right. How creeped out would you feel?
Right.
So don't do that to somebody else. You'll find somebody, just do a love spell and see yourself being super happy, super fulfilled, coming home from a date, shutting the door, being super, super, super happy. Don't visualize a certain person and then pick from whomever you're going to have come into your sphere.
Right.
So
Exactly.
I think we might have time for one more.
One more. Do we hex?
No. No. No, we don't do hexes. You mean like curses and things?
Sure.
No.
Well,
No. We don't. What we send out comes back to us. Why would we do that to ourselves? If I send out a love spell, it comes back to me. If I send out a money spell, it comes back to me. If I send out a protection spell, it comes back to me. Why would the physics of nature be, I'm going to send out a curse and all of a sudden it's going to take a left turn or a right turn and go to that person? It's going to come back to me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to self-harm. That's stupid.
No.
So, no, we don't hex. Now, I'm not saying that You know, there are ways of protecting yourself. Less than thy self-defense would be, ever mind the rule of three. I'm not going to let I mean, I also studied in the martial arts for several years. I'm not going to let somebody take and hurt, you know, just stand there and let them hurt me, punch at me or something like that. I'm going to defend myself. And magic is a type of defense. You can defend yourself. You can also put locks on your doors. You can do smart things.
Right.
Magic sometimes will lead you to believe, you know what, don't go down that road. Maybe
But also,
it's dangerous
exactly,
today.
But also, karma will do that. You know.
Well,
I mean, you let
karma, yes, does work.
You have somebody that's.
I hear that. I hear that out there. People are like, no, I know people. Karma doesn't work. I have this brother-in-law. Oh no, he does all kinds of terrible things, and nothing bad ever happens to him. Well, you know what? I'll tell you something. They don't come up and tell you that karma has visited them and made their life miserable. But you know who they tell? They tell me.
Right.
They come into my place all the time, and they will tell me all kinds of things. And yeah, karma visits people. It just, they don't come back and let you know about it. So, but be
Exactly.
assured, karma does visit people.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So that is the Baba Yagas. And if you have a question, we will answer all of them. Please be kind. And if you have a real, I mean, even if it's a weird question, trust me, after 40 years, I've heard them all. And there's
then
nothing
some.
weird if you're sincere. So please
Right.
send your questions to magicalalt1818@gmail.com, and I will be happy to bring them here, and me and Ms. Laurel, playing the Baba Yagas, will answer them for you. So thank you very much. Now we are going to listen to some wonderful music from November Sound. Thank you very much, and take it away, guys.
I want to be invisible, far from the spotlight's glow. I'm willing participant in life, no friends, well none I know. Come on Friday, kill my dreams. Come on Friday, come on Friday. Oh, my heart and I depart. Come on Friday, come on Friday, steal my soul. Being normal could be nice, but every choice comes with a price. Check my Facebook, send a text. No worries about what comes next. Come on Friday, kill my dreams. Come on Friday, come on Friday. Say to me you want to tell a secret. Say to you I'm big with the truth, I'll handle it. Say to you it's best you open up to me. Say to me you can't give up your identity. Now that I know what I know, I still feel the same about you. Now that you know what you know, I still feel the same about me. Wait and see. So now I let go of the past and I wonder what's in store. Well, I thought I'd feel the same, but now I think I love you more now that I know. Oh, I know. Say to me you're undercover in the day. Say I'm not a morning person anyway. Say to you your secret's always safe with me. Say to me you give up your identity. Now that I know what I know, I still feel the same about you. Now that you know what you know, you still feel the same about me. Wait and see. So now I let go of the past and I wonder what's in store. Well, I thought I'd feel the same, but now I think I love you more now that I know. You'll always be my hero, no matter where you go. My undercover hero, doesn't matter what I know, what I know. Now that I know what I know, I still feel the same about you. Now that you know what you know, you still feel the same about me. Wait and see. So now I let go of the past and I wonder what's in store. Well, I thought I'd feel the same, but now I think I love you more now that I know. Oh, I know. Now that I know what I know, I still feel the same about you. Now that you know what you know, you still feel the same about me. Wait and see. So now I let go of the past and I wonder what's in store. Well, I thought I'd feel the same, but now I think I love you more now that I know.
And thanks again to November Sound. They were awesome. And to finish our show, we're going to be talking about Ostara. And that happens in March. It's the spring equinox. We celebrate it every year. Pagans celebrate a wheel of the year that's very ancient. It's an agricultural wheel of the year because pagans were always an agrarian society, an agricultural farming society, and we still are. That's where, and around this time of the year, people always ask what's with the bunnies and the eggs and the chicks and all of that stuff that kind of gets blended into other spring holidays. Well, it comes from Ostara. Ostara was an Anglo-Saxon goddess, Estra, and it stands for the burgeoning of spring and all the baby birds being hatched and the baby bunnies and the chicken eggs and all of those kinds of things. So we celebrate that as a part of our Wheel of the Year, which has 8 holidays. And this is the one that we celebrate as one of our spring rituals. And to do so, one of the things I do with my students and friends is we take little plastic eggs, and instead of filling them with candies and other things that aren't really healthy for us, I'm going to grab one. I'm going to give one to Miss Laurel. We fill them with little words that we use kind of as a way to give us focus for the upcoming year. I have one for everyone here on the crew if you want to grab one. And what's your egg say?
Seek.
Seek. Oh. And mine. Oh, mine's love. Love. I love when I get love. That's perfect. And yeah,
At least you didn't get patience again.
I got patience like 4 years in a row. I was really getting impatient with that. It's interesting how when you get a word, it's kind of almost like a magical fortune cookie. It's interesting how that word really develops throughout your upcoming year and how it takes place and really makes you think about it. So,
Yeah. I'm going to have to think on this one.
I want to thank
Definitely.
everyone for our show tonight.
Yeah.
And thank you, Miss Laurel.
Yes.
I want to thank my guest, Gavin
Gavin
Bone,
Bone,
the
yes.
band November Sound. It was awesome, the
Yes.
magical alternative crew, everyone here at Community Voice Channel Public Access Television in Bolton, Connecticut. And remember, a dream you dream alone is only a dream you dream together becomes reality. So thank you, everyone. Have a great night, and we'll see you next month. Take care.
Yay.